and usually between 8 and 15. 6 and 20. Sometimes I start off by doing high reps, 2 sets of 20, before I get into the 8 sets of 8, for example. I'm just giving you a small example of different ways that you can rep sequence. But make sure that you are doing 21 days where you're pretty much doing the same rep sequencing, because your body does not like change. This is not, your body likes repetition so it can adapt to that environment. That's when you're going to get the biggest and best as far as adding on muscle. And again, and you can lower your repetitions, but make sure that at the end of the day, you're doing a lot of volume as much as you possibly can, doing it the right way, and not sacrificing, the reps and feeling like all the stuff that we've talked about before, feeling what you train. Don't sacrifice that. I don't want you to get misled by that, okay? At 21, change your exercise order. For example, I do an order where I'm doing T-bar row, low row, lat pull down. Those three exercises right there, kind of my go-tos for my back exercise. I do that for 21 days, and then I change the order. It doesn't matter how you change the order, but when you do that particular order for 21 days. You see where I'm going with that? So you have a default. We want to have a strategy. So I'm going to do, these are the exercises that I've selected. This is my rep scheme, and we're going to do this for 21 days. And just focus on that. Today I got my ass changing gears here a little bit. I got my ass handed to me today. I mean, handed to me. It took me about 2 hours to recover. And you know what? I fucking loved it. It was amazing. Sweat came out of my body and a stench came out of my body like I've never smelled before. I don't know, man. Maybe I was dancing on death's door, but it was awesome. What I'm so happy to report to you is that you can continue to make progress and add muscle faster than you think at any age. It's happening for me. Obviously, my training is on point, but so is my supplementation and so is my nutrition. You got to pay attention to all the factors or the elements that are responsible to get that result. Okay? That's really all I want to talk about before we get into some questions. So, okay, Carol.
Myron wrote you right now and said, Leo, when you talk about keeping carbs down to a minimum, are you referring to just simple carbs or both simple and complex?
Both. Carb is a carb in this case. Forget about, I know that sometimes they talk about net carbs. I just use total carbs, but yes, it includes the simple and the complex carbs. Total carbs.
Okay. So I do have a couple questions. One was, Leo, can you discuss more about how to stay in the optimal training zone and specifically the hyper and hypo zone on your next Q&A?
Okay. The way that you can set what I just referred to just now, by doing rep sequencing and staying within those reps sequence, is a general rule of thumb is that if you're overtraining, what's going to end up happening is that your body can't recover. That's a sign that you're jumping out of that optimal training zone. That's one sign. Okay, and again, that it's hard for me to give you an exact number because we're all different in the way that we respond to resting, the reps that we're using. Those are all factors. But I can tell you that a good rule of thumb is that if you can't recover, look, it took me today an extra 2 hours to recover. It usually takes me 1 hour, but this is not something that will happen to me on a regular basis. I think if I was getting myself to this point on a regular basis, I would be jumping out of that training zone. If you start getting some slight injuries, little tweaks, those are indicators. If your heart rate is elevated when you first wake up in the morning, it should be about 60 beats per minute when you're just lying in bed. When you wake up, without getting out of bed. I mean, those are just indicators. And then it's just a matter of you paying attention to what your body is saying to you. Your body is communicating with you very loudly. It's just a question of whether or not you're listening to that. And again, you have to, it's a process by which you, and within each set that you're doing, how well are you recovering? You have to monitor that, out. It's more than that. You want to go all out, but you also want to monitor yourself, because you don't want to go to the point where you just can't possibly recover to get the most out of your workout. That's the best way that I can explain staying in the training zone, optimal training zone.
Okay, what rep speed has been most productive for you? Slow rep or fast rep?
I like up tempo. I just do. I know that some people they go really slow. And look, the thing is, it's more of a personal preference. It's the end result that you're looking for. And my suggestion to you is you need to try it yourself. I like the up tempo, moderate to up. But I'm never, even in those tempos, I'm not sacrificing feeling the rep. But I've tried slow rep training. Personally, it's not for me. A little more up tempo, I get a little more work done in, and the work that I'm doing is all very productive. I'm not wasting movement. Up tempo, feel what you train. Don't be afraid to manipulate weights down or up. A lot of people don't like taking weight off. Like, well, so many people do drop sets, but so many people don't like to do less weight. They like to do more weight. The weights are just a tool. Pay attention to what your body's saying to you, how you're feeling it. Okay, I keep going over that over and over again, but it's sometimes I think we overcomplicate things. Feel what you train.
So somebody, I think Myron, had posted something on the group, and it was like a little saying that he found.
Yeah.
And it said best foods for fat loss. And then I was actually wondering your opinion on this. So it said best foods for fat loss: steak, chicken, elk, pork, fish, shellfish, eggs, broccoli, asparagus, peppers, onions, Brussels sprouts, and berries. Is there a reason, do you think, that is why those are some like best foods for fat loss?
I don't think that.
You don't think that?
I do not. I think that it's based on caloric intake. And if you're, let's put this in a different way.
Yeah, you have another one.
Let me ask you a question. Let's just use those foods that we're talking about. I think those are great foods, by the way.
Well, the little saying says, eat only from this list for a couple of weeks and watch them feel the magic.
Yeah, okay. That's half the truth.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so here we go. If your body maintenance weight, caloric intake is 2,000 calories, if that's the case, based on what that thing just said, watch the magic happen. If I ate my ass off and I ate more than 2,000 calories a day, if I ate 3,500 calories a day
of berries,
of anything, of any of those foods, the magic wouldn't happen. It comes down to numbers, people. Look, we all have certain foods that we're going to respond to better. Your digestive system, just the way you're made up. Some people can tolerate certain foods, some people can't. But to say that, that's what happened back in the days when the Atkins diet, that high-fat diet, he never addressed caloric intake. He just said, eat what you want and watch the magic happen, essentially. He did not address caloric intake. So, again, back to my question is, what happens then if you eat all these magical foods, watch the magic happen, but you're eating 1,500 calories over your maintenance weight? What the hell do you think is going to happen over time? You're going to gain weight. So is it magical in that sense? And yet I'm saying to you, there's certain foods, like with me, I don't do real well on when I start eating too much fruit, which you think is healthy, and it is. I don't do well on it. But I tell you what I do well on is real simple. Steak, rice, chicken, rice, steak, potatoes, chicken, potatoes, and of course I eat some pork and things like that. But I never lose sight of how many calories that I'm eating, to the point of nauseum. When I travel, a scale goes with me. To this day, a scale goes with me for that reason. I want to control my look, my weight, to the nth degree. So that food is not just magic by itself. You got to always take into consideration caloric intake, and you need to know what your caloric maintenance weight is, for sure. And if you want to do that, you need to, I guess you go to these apps, make it pretty easy for you now, but you need to write down what you're eating and then just see where you're really at, because you need to find out how much protein you're taking in, things like that.
So I have a question.
Go on.
It counts. So why do you think your body doesn't do well with a lot of fruit but does well with rice? Because I'll be honest, I do well with rice too.
Well, I just think that the I don't know, I'm not really quite sure, to be honest with you. I get a my body holds more water when I take fruit in. Mind you, I ate quite a bit of fruit, but I also eat quite a bit of rice. But for some reason, because I'm going to say glycemic index value, but the rice has a very high glycemic index value. It's in your system really quick.
Why don't you share with them what the glycemic index value is?
It's just how quickly that the glucose or the item that you're taking in, how quickly that it breaks down. The faster that it breaks down, it has a higher glycemic index value.
And the faster it breaks down, the better?
Yes, it can be, but it also spikes your insulin, and you get these where you start having these up and down. You crash.
Oh, so that's where you feel full, but then you're all of a sudden hungry again.
Yeah. So, like I said, just eating fruit. Now I can control the way that fruit is reacting with me, just like I can with the rice and how I look. I add fat. We talked about that before. This is where eating more fat in the diet would control. But there's something about the fruit. And I would think that, look, it's got a higher water content. I'm not saying that should hold water, because the more water that you take in, the more water that you're going to release. Whatever that case is, see, this is how you have to find out where it really works for you. But you have to take time 21 days, to really find out, what is really affecting you in that way. Because there's so many factors. That's what makes this really hard. Maybe you're under stress. Maybe you're holding, your body's just naturally holding water. But I just don't do really well on fruit. I don't feel strong on fruit. I just stick with the basics: meat and rice, some salad, potatoes, for sure. As a bodybuilder, that's how I eat. That's it. Well, Silverbackers, here's to you. Listen, I want to keep telling you, our community is growing. We got more.
We want to shout out Joe, because he put his picture on the page.
Oh yeah, Joe Breen. He just did a show in Florida, and he did really well. Man, I saw his photos from when he first started. His transformation was amazing. And by the way, he used lockdown, which I've talked about lockdown on this program, how it can be a real effective tool, not only for weight loss, but also for implementing a strategy that can facilitate muscle gain and improving endurance. But yeah, shout out to Joe Breen. He went into his top 5 in the open class. In the Masters, he was 3rd. Hey, look, this is the first time he's competed now in 5 years. And, the body has to readjust when you're older. He's going to go ahead and compete again. I think he said next year. But what a remarkable transformation that he made. So good job, Joe. I guess we'll see. We can see you guys next time. Are we going to be next week? Is going to be different, right, for the lives?
Yes. We'll do it on Tuesday.
Next week, there's a schedule conflict, so we're going to be doing it Tuesday at 10 o'clock.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Tuesday at 10 o'clock.
Yeah. If it changes, I'll post it. Okay,
sounds good. It'll be Tuesday at 10 o'clock. Until next time, get serious growth.
You were drinking 2 coffees. You went straight for mine. You're still alive there. Let me see.
I need espresso.